This was basically our course. We had to do a sprint down this racetrack, or run, flip over, and this was the beginning of the mud mile, or Jesus walk. That's about 3 feet of water, anywhere ranging up to 5 to 6 feet of water, various holes. You walk through and you don't feel the bottom, you just drop in. Sometimes you can stand, sometimes you can't. This was the second obstacle, very similar. They called it the mud mile, but instead of holes, there was about a foot of mud the entire length of this, all the way up to those walls. There was 3 sets of walls, and then more water on the other side in between each set. A lot of mud, a lot of water. This is the first lap, which took a lot of people out. After the mud mile, filled with more ice water, we continued to the dirt track trail and ran around all this, up and down these hills. Back in the corner, there's a rail that you had to climb over, and over some water. If you didn't make it, you dropped into 3 feet, 4 feet of water. I made it through that. More hills. This is Devil's Beard. There's a big cargo net. You have to belly crawl or crawl underneath all the way up the hill. Good shoulder strength workout. As you can see, it's Sunday morning, 8 a.m. It's about 25 degrees outside and windy. These guys have been going all night. Wetsuit is the key. This is a fun obstacle. 30-foot high cargo net. Climb up and over. I'm sure a lot of people fell off that. My favorite is the hay. That should stop you if you fall off this. This is the shock therapy. Bales of hay are higher, you actually have to climb over them. As you get close, you can actually hear the arcing.
Either one. You guys, if you move around, you'll stay more warm. Let's jog. Look, jog and plates, move your legs. Woo! Stay warm. I think I'm still holding.
Alright, after about a half mile of running / walking, you come to this, climb up, and over through the cargo net, and then back down the other side. If you're watching this and training for the best way to approach it is actually just lay on it and roll across. So I did it, worked real well. These are only 7-footers. These are easy to make it over without any help. And continue on, but still to make it over 3 of them. So this was a tough obstacle because we had to wait 15 minutes for a backup to get to it. And you had to jump over and land on these logs. The squares, notice the ice in the water, giving you an idea how cold it is. And the guy supervising it in safety is in a dry suit. Not a bad idea.
Good work, good work.
Platforms are just like ice.
Great job, you guys. Good job. Great job.
Try, guys, keep going.
Famous Funky Monkey. A lot of people are even dropping in this. I did make it over this obstacle. Thanks to Chris for all his push-ups and pull-ups. Arm strength was okay. Started to get fun. The width part of the obstacle course. I had to jump over or crawl over this creek. It's only a foot of water, but I can't clear the jump. It's probably about 6 feet across. At least the roots gave you enough on the other side to grab onto. And then you continue back up through the woods, do more trails and climbing over stuff, which we'll get there soon. As soon as I can figure out how to get across. Yay, more mud and more water. Surprised yet? For the next half mile or so through the woods, we're basically running through more of this, more mud. Well, at least it was mud yesterday, now it's all frozen. It's still hard to get your firm grip on your footing. Well, I didn't have to worry about that at least. But more cargo net. This is actually a lot harder than it looks because there's nothing supporting it underneath. It's real loose. So your body, there's a lot of give in it. So you really have to have a lot of balance to get over the top. It does seem kind of a petty small hill comparing it to the rest, but I want to give you at least a full idea. Run up and over. I gotta jump over these. See that tall one right there? That's the route I took. And actually, it wasn't that hard. Balance was key.
One that I've done. Maybe go. Edit better have a half.
It's basically a crawl underneath barbed wire. And you gotta go back up the hill, all barbed wire. A lot of people are belly crawling, but watching these guys, they're rolling. Not a bad idea. Just taking mental notes for next year. So after a half mile running through all these trails, came to the infamous boa. Slide down the tubes.
Yeah, there is a thin layer of ice over on this side, so no one's been coming through on it.
Into the water. Water's about 18 inches deep. It was enough to when you slid through and get your head wet.
Oh man.
After you slide down, you have to crawl back up another set underneath all this. Very good angle, enough to really use a lot of hand grip. This is called the shake and bake. That's a deep hole. You jump in, it's about 5 feet deep of water. Completely submerge yourself, and then you have to crawl underneath this, more wire. Yesterday it was real loose, almost like compost. So you get done at the end and you're just covered with dirt. Still fun. More ups. It's basically just running around on the dirt track. You gotta crawl over, under, these logs, if you see the arrow and the wires, you had to make sure you climb underneath those. Some of these were loose, so you couldn't just walk on them because they roll. Twinkle toes. I was able to make it across this the first time. Now a lot of guys are just crawling. I saw a lot of people fall. It was deep and ice and cold. Next obstacle, I had to climb down into the water. Of course, the water was deep. And then these tunnels, if you can see them underneath there, they're about 2 to 3 feet tall. And you crawl, and they kind of go at an angle and go all the way underneath the hay and come out the other side. So you're doing a belly crawl slash bear crawl for about 50 feet. This is where people come out. And then we'd have rings over there they had to climb across. This was tough to do. Didn't make this one. By the time your hands were getting wet and frozen, I dropped in the water there. And then you had to take a 5-minute penalty if you don't make it across. So you stand there and wait for 5 minutes in the cold.
It's, you know, it's not a physical.
Yep, that's about what it is. This was tough. So do the rope climb. This 2x4 right here in the middle, I guess they added that later on in the day after I went through. Otherwise you pretty much had to climb up the rope without use of anything and get over the top. This is where teamwork came into play. I had a guy pushing me up, and then I pulled him up as he came up and over. And in those tubes, we slide down, pretty much a steep slide, fully enclosed in black, into, yay, more mud and water. Good times. So after we did this slide, you run over. You have to grab a set of 2 tires. They're tied together and you bring them on your shoulders, however you carry them, and you carry them around the racetrack for, I think it was about a half mile. And then you bring them back and do a loop. So after you run with your tires, you run for a little bit longer. And then you just have to run across this and then run around the rest of the course or the lap to the track, and then it's back over to the dirt track. Next you have to come to the next set of Berlin walls. These are a lot higher and they require help to get over the top. But once you get over the top, you have to jump back down, and it's still a good fall. So after climbing over those hay bales, you run around, you come back over to this. They're like mini hurdles, and they go all the way down. They're only about 3 feet high, but you basically jump over them. But after 3 or 4 laps, it can probably get pretty old. This was a fun one. Climbing through ice and water. That arcing you hear is electricity, and last time I checked, electricity and water do not or shouldn't be put together, but hey, what do I know. Yeah, this was Mount Everest. You had to run really fast, try and get up. If you couldn't make it up, you had a 5-minute penalty. Some people did. Once you got up the top, they helped each other out, but I couldn't get it up. I got up waited the 5 minutes. At that point, you're cold and you're shivering. You just continue on. This was the big obstacle. This was fun. Climb up over the top. You had to roll across the cargo net, and then you had to climb over and up these rope ladders. That's up about 40 feet. It's high when you get up there. It was windy, but it was fun, and actually I learned a technique to climb the ropes. And I was able to get over the top. There's no way to skip this obstacle. You have to make it over. And then you have to go more cargo net again, just to roll over the top. Get over the top, and then you climb back down. So after I did this, you run down and run through the woods. And there was more of just mud and trails running through there. A couple spots where you hit 2 to 3 feet of water and mud, but nothing real hard. I was feeling good at that point. I thought I'd do another lap. And then it came to the water, which we'll come to next, which broke a lot of people. This is what separated everybody from the group. I was able to make it all the way across, which was tough, just sliding using an upside down belly crawl. But then once you get to across the other side, you have to get in the water, and it's about 5 feet deep, 6 feet deep at some points. You had to swim out underneath it to the barrels and dive under 1, 2, 3 barrels. Swim, swim, and then climb up that plank. And then you run all the way to the other side of the lake. All the way other side of the lake, and I'll show you that in a minute. So after you come out of the water and you run a quarter mile, you have to come back across and swim across the lake. It's 5 to 6 feet deep again in some spots. There is a rope you can hang on to. I'm guessing it's about 100 yards across. So it'll be the third time you're completely submerged in water. And then you get to these, the rope ladders, where you have to climb up to the top and back over. So after you run,
Is there any way to have medical get some towels?
you climb up. And it's walk the plank. The volunteers think I'm actually going to jump in. It was fun yesterday, but it's a long way down. It's probably about 20 to 25 feet jump into the water. 20 for sure. But definitely a rush when the water temperature is 40 degrees. And then once you're in the water, you have to swim another 100 yards across there. And then you run over to there. And you have to pick up a log and walk it around those buoys, swimming it, walking it. And then you run all the way. Sorry if I'm going fast. Battery's dying. All the way over to there, and the finish line is over there. Well, it was fun. I only did one lap. At the end of the day, it came down to gear. Physically, I was able to do more. But when you're in the water for almost an hour, 40-degree temps, it just takes the wind out of you. Energy. A lot of people after the first lap packed up their tents and left. Of the 800, I think, competitors, there's only about 200 left after the first lap. Some people didn't even make it through one complete lap. So I'm happy at least I finished the lap and I didn't end up in this area. Hypothermia tent. I was able to at least complete a lap. My mistake was I waited too long in between laps, and I got to the heaters and warmed up, and not having the right gear. Everybody running today and finishing multiple laps had on one, if not two, wetsuits to keep them warm. A lot of guys I talked to on the course said they're actually hot and being in 2 wetsuits. So nutrition, and again, I was fine, and athletic ability, I thought I could at least done 3 to 4 laps. That's what I trained for, but you know, you can't train in cold. You gotta have the right gear. So hope you enjoyed the little tour, the course. See you guys at the next Tough Mudder.